The thing about all of the games is that, first of all, it creates connection, because so many other families on the planet all over the world have also grown up playing games. And so when you find a game in common, there's instant connection. And I actually have somebody in mind where I can remember, it was through business that we connected, but we ended up like on an airplane going somewhere and playing gin, and just having that in common. But those traditions and having those games, and, really when I reflect on, my dad was such an entrepreneur, and he could see things that his imagination was so rich that he, throughout my entire life, would envision businesses and was so far ahead of his time that often the businesses, years later, we could look back and maybe that business didn't do well then, and it would show up 10 years later, 20 years later, 30 years later. He was so foresighted. But he was also, he had everything under the sun, he had restaurants, sometimes he had a hotel, sometimes he had shopping centers, sometimes he had this, and he was just always moving with the times. And I think I learned my risk-taking from my dad. So I became capable of risks, but I think I was more measured than him, because my mother was they were opposites. Dad was a risk taker, mom was cautious. Mom's family during the Great Depression, and I think a lot of people who had parents, my mother was born in 1929, the year of the Great Crash. And in 1929, her family had a grocery store in New Orleans. And that grocery store really took care of the whole family. But they lost a lot, as so many did during the Great Depression. My dad's side of the family, they were the type of people who were making money during the Great Depression. They had completely different backgrounds. So dad was having this background. Mom was having this one. She was the one who was cautious. He was the risk taker. They were a good balance for each other, but dad still took more risks than were wise. So I learned, how to be, I think, the better version of dad, and being able to be more cautious. And having said that, I have also taken some risks that probably the whole family wishes I hadn't.